for you. Also, if you're on the phone with us today, videos will be made available at a later date, and the PowerPoint presentations will be mailed out to those who are registered for this workshop. Also, we're recording the workshop. Sorry, I put that in the wrong spot. So keep it in mind that you are being recorded. If you're on the phone or video, make sure to mute your devices unless you're the one speaking. For those of you in the room, please remember to mute the ringtone on your cell phones. We will first hear from our three presenters and ask you to hold questions until the end. Following the presentations around 11 a.m., we will have some time for questions and answers for our panel, of speakers. Before I introduce our first speaker, I want to tell you my own story about how effective it can be to communicate through social media. Prior to September of 2015, I used Facebook personally, much like everybody else does, just to keep up with my friends and family and share photos. Northern Nye County lost their privately owned hospital in August, and by September 4th, the clinic, also by the same owner, was closed. I was seeing posts from several sites on Facebook, and it became increasingly obvious that the panic was being perpetrated by the lack of contact with the commissioners. Without any contact, the public assumed that the board was doing nothing to help that situation. Nye County doesn't have a public relations officer. Mistake or not, I began to post updates on the steps that we were taking to secure medical services for Central and Northern Nye County. I was like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, extremely careful to only post facts and plans. I did not engage each following comment, but I did answer some questions and provide contacts for questions I couldn't answer. It turned out that using Facebook to communicate about this issue was the best course of action that I could have taken. The panic subsided, and the exchange became more thoughtful. And I was reelected to fill the third term on the board with a couple of challengers facing me. So in my experience, I'm excited to learn more about this awesome tool and to find out what I did wrong. Email alone has caught my tail under the rocker a time or two. So what you say in print stays there forever, and that's one thing I have learned in the last 8 years. Our first presenter today is Todd Celts, and we are very lucky today to have Professor Celts here. He is currently a journalism professor at UNR, but prior to that, he worked for 20 years in strategic communications at organizations along the East Coast, including serving as speechwriter and press secretary for Governor Jim Hunt of North Carolina. He's going to give us a primer on how to use social media, and please welcome.
All right, thank you so much, Lorinda. So, the screen, yes, okay, good. All right, thank you so much. So, I titled today's presentation, Very Public Tools for Very Public Service. Facebook and Twitter are very public tools. In fact, they get more traffic. There is more traffic on Facebook every day than all of Los Angeles. If you can put it into comparison, if Facebook were a country, it would be the fourth largest country on the planet by population. The fastest growing users of Facebook today are women in their 60s. So Facebook has really changed over the years. I'm not assuming anyone's age, so I'm just going to make that statement. I wanted to begin by just sort of introducing you to some terms and concepts that we use in our strategic communications toolbox. So to start with, one of the things that we know, and we all hear this word marketing. Marketing is essentially looking at the market, looking at your constituents, looking at the number of people who live, looking at what age they are, and after looking at that market, we deliver a message. So here's a young man, a young commissioner who has recently been elected, and he is delivering this message to his constituent. It's a simple message: I'm a great county commissioner. That is marketing. If someone delivers the message on our behalf, so if someone walks up to our constituent and says, trust me, he's a great county commissioner, that is public relations by the very nature that someone else is delivering the message on your behalf. Advertising is taking information, direct mail pieces, other forms of direct and very controlled methods of communication. I'm a great county commissioner, I'm a great county commissioner, I'm a great county commissioner. He is delivering that message because he is paying to play. He has a very controlled message because he knows how to deliver that message because he's getting to pay for it. So it's a very controlled form of strategic communications. Social media is essentially, can someone help me find a great county commissioner? So we have this smorgasbord of human beings who are going on with their lives, they're posting information, they're asking questions. So in social media, the headline is that we are monitoring social media, we're looking at what people are saying, we're using tools like TweetDeck and other tools that actually monitor what people are saying about something we care about. And of course, you'll see as we go through, it's our responsibilities as active users of social media to know what people are saying and going out and providing information as Lorinda did when she was trying to communicate about the health services in my county. Journalism is he a great county commissioner? We're going to hear from dozens of experts after these messages. So one of the real interesting shifts that's occurred in strategic communications in the last decade is we used to live in what we call the filter then publish model. So we had information that we wanted to share to the public. So what we did is we used organizations, newspapers, TV stations, radio stations, individuals to deliver the message, but they filtered it before our message reached our audiences. So that's sort of the role that journalism has played historically, but it shifted. As we know, once something runs in a newspaper, we have the ability now to share it on our social media sites. And so the legs of a story in the newspaper, it doesn't go away 2 days after it runs on the front page. It can live for days and sometimes even months. But what is happening here is social media is part of our branding toolbox. The idea is that we use social media effectively so that someone, our constituent, walks up to us and repeats the message that we want them to repeat. I understand you're a great county commissioner. And when that happens, what has essentially occurred is we have branded our message. Our message is branded, and people understand what we're trying to communicate. So Facebook, by definition, is a social network. There's been a movie about it. We understand other tools like LinkedIn that fit into this category. It's a social network and it is semi-open. Okay, so what that means is it's only open to the people that you select it to be open to. So you have to give permission to people to be your friend. You can set your security settings where only your friends see your posts. You can set your security settings where your friends of your friends can see your post, or you can set your security settings on social media, on Facebook, where everyone, anything that you post and someone searches your name, they can see your post. But you need to understand that it is semi-open. There's very different networks and very different tools that we use in social media that are much more open, like blogs, which I pretend stands for best listing on Google, but typically it's short for weblog. The term blog is, you can set some blogs, for example, like a Tumblr account, but most WordPress is a very open tool. We are posting information because we want people to find it. But that is not the case in Facebook. Twitter is a microblog, okay? So if we talk about blogs being very open, microblogs are not as open because they are limited, specifically with Twitter, by who is following you and who you are following. And it's 140 characters, and I even have here everything from love testimonials to a divorce announcements in 140 characters or less, even from your phone. I wanted to take this moment to tell you that about 80% about 80%, and this number continues to grow. So I might be off a few percentage points, but when I was teaching a class in March, we were about 80% of the people who use Twitter and Facebook are using it on their mobile device. Okay, so you need to consider that because they're not going to read much and they don't have a lot of space. So, you know, we have to keep things short and we have to keep things clear. This is a very complicated research tool, but I did want to bring it up. One of the things that you need to understand when you step into these public forums like Facebook and Twitter is that if you have an objective, when you go in and use these tools and you have an objective in mind, you're going to be effective. You know, going in and using these tools as a free-for-all doesn't work as well. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't post photos of your grandkids, and I'm not saying you shouldn't communicate with your, high school prom dates, which there's an old joke about Facebook. It's the tool that helps you find your high school prom date and see what they look like. I've looked her up, So, but one of the things, and what that does is it allows us to communicate and keep our presence on Facebook. Now, I want to tell you a real quick fact. In the 60s, there was extensive amounts of research done on how relationships are built by this very famous sociologist. And this sociologist determined in the 60s that every human being on the planet has 3 types of relationships in their lifetime. They have relationships, they have acquired relationships, and they have achieved relationships. So acquired relationships are people that you might run into the supermarket. Hey, Betty, how are you? How's David? I saw he got a promotion. So he's doing great. So happy to see you. But you may see them once in a while. Those are acquired. You know them. You don't know them well. Achieved relationships. The sociologist studied, we only have about 3 or 4 in our lifetimes. There are children, our spouses, people that we're really, really close to. And then everybody else are just relationships. It's your prom date. People you worked with 20 years ago. You kind of know, but you don't know that well. Well, here's the most fascinating thing about Facebook. Every bit of your activity on Facebook, you ready for this? Gets put into 3 categories. Achieved relationships, acquired relationships, and relationships. And what makes this so important is, for example, I have a social media objective every summer. I give speeches all over the country. I'm going to Chicago tomorrow to give a speech at a conference. And so what I do is I use my networks of friends on Facebook to find them. And so I'll go in and comment on their post of their grandkids or their wedding or whatever for about a month before it's time for me to start getting them to hire me to give speeches. So I step in and I move them up to a higher relationship by just having activity between them. Liking their pictures, commenting on things. So that brings them into another tier on Facebook that allows me, when I do post something I want them to do for me, I'm in their top networks. One of the things, a few years ago, a woman by the name of Charlene Lee looked at how do we use social media, and she determined that most people are just watching what you're doing. They're just paying attention. Oh, wow, no, yeah, good, we need a hospital. Yes. But some people are involved. There's an old joke about having bacon and eggs for breakfast. The chicken is involved, the pig is committed. You've probably heard that before. If you have, I'm sorry to bring a bad joke back. But one of the things is that there's not that many people committed to the actions that you take on your Facebook feed. And so what our job is, as individuals who need to get reelected, people who need to pay attention to the work you're doing, is we're trying to move them up the engagement pyramid so that they're sharing information, they're commenting on our posts. Does anybody know the easiest way to move people up the engagement pyramid? It's the easiest thing in the world, and I'm doing it right now.
Talk to them.
Talk to them? What'd you say?
Ask them questions.
Ask a question. People love to be asked questions on Facebook. So if you ask people, I'm looking for a new dentist, try this sometime. You'll get 100 people telling you what dentist to go to. or a new chiropractor, or a new massage therapist, or whatever, when you ask questions, that automatically moves you up the engagement pyramid. So Facebook, just some fun things, little facts I wanted to tell you. We know that the best time to post for greater engagement is, believe it or not, between 8 p.m. at night and 7 a.m. The most important person on the planet when it comes to marketing and engagement is a working mother. We spend a lot of time in strategic communications talking to that working mother. They make decisions about what food you eat. They make the decisions about where we go to church, where we go to vacation. They even, research shows, ladies and gentlemen, tells us who to vote for. They're more and more important, and you'll see this very clearly in this presidential election. You're going to see both candidates vying for that working mother's vote. In about 27 counties in America, that's what's going to determine the election. You heard it from me first. Anyway, so 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. Is the best time to post. We also know the best time to post on Facebook is on Wednesdays. For whatever reason, people like it. So if you're keeping track, if you post at 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday, you're going to get better engagement. We know that daily posts, 1 or 2, is best. So people don't want to hear from you that much. They don't want to hear that, everything that you're doing. They just want a post or 2 daily. We know that weekly, people who post about 1 to 4 times a week actually have about 75% more engagement. So more people are liking, more people are sharing, more people are commenting. We know that short posts, little short posts, have the best response than really long posts. If anyone ever has to hit the more button on your Facebook page, they have lost you. You have lost them forever. So short posts are best. I just mentioned the best way to spark a dialogue on Facebook is to ask a question. I have seen many government entities ask tough questions to their constituents about how's trash pickup going. There's an old joke in public administration dichotomy that says you can pass the greatest legislation in the world, but if people's trash are not getting picked up, you're doomed. Yes?
Do you consider a like or a share a post?
I consider that engagement. So if you post something and they like it, what we're trying to do is to get them to like it.
Gotcha.
Yes, good question. And people love coupons, they love dollars off. If you can figure out how to integrate that into your messages, you're in good shape. So I just grabbed my Facebook page yesterday, and I wanted to talk to you about some elements. The first element is your timeline. The timeline is what is going on. This is the activity in your top tier. So remember I told you there were 3 tiers. Sometimes I have 2,600 friends or 2,100 friends. I don't even know anymore. And one of the things that happens is all of a sudden somebody shows up. I'm like, where did they come from? Gosh, I forgot they were my friend in my timeline. But the timeline is a quick, easy to understand feed of all the activity that's going on. So these are people who are in your top tier because they've even looked at your stuff or they've liked your stuff or whatever. You can also see that you can open up all the friends. I've sort of done it here for you. You can look at your friends' friends. You can also look at the friends you have in common, which are very important if you're building a campaign and trying to accomplish something. This is a great opportunity to find new friends and new ways to communicate. There's another tool here, which is your name. Your name will live at the top. When you open that name, it's going to take you to your homepage. And this is just the activity that you have posted, just your activity, not other people's activity. This is your activity. I learned how people understood Facebook when my sweet 70-year-old mother got on Facebook last Christmas. I got her an iPad and she got on Facebook. And I have become her 24-hour technical support center. And one of the things that I understood that really I never occurred to me, that she couldn't figure out how to get back to herself. And I'm like, Mom, you just take your picture up on, I don't see it, Todd, I don't see it. I'm like, it's up there. It's up there. So now we have FaceTime, and she FaceTimes from her laptop, and she holds her thing up, and I'm like, okay, move your finger, move it. There it is, and you hit it. And so that's when I really started understanding the challenges of understanding Facebook and how it works. But this is how you get home. You hit your picture or your name. The home button takes you home. That's back to your timeline. So the other thing I wanted to show you is this really important, the two people. You can see I need to go through mine and check them out, but these are all the people who've asked to be my friend. And you may have a couple. You can get to it really quickly by hitting the two people, and it'll show you who they are. There they are. This is your private messages. And my mother doesn't understand this, that she can send a private message on Facebook. You can also send a private message on Twitter as well. A direct message that no one else can see. So you can see that she is constantly, that's my mom on the top, and she says bye. She's busy. She's retired, so she loves Facebook so much. And then if you hit the world button, that gives you a quick down and dirty of all activity that's occurred. So if people have liked your page, if people have shared your page, if people have loved a photo, you can love now. You can also give a sad face. There's all these new tools that allows us to do that. And this button here to me is the most important button because I run several social media pages. I don't own the rental school. We have someone who runs the rental school's page, but I have access to it and I can post on it. And I can also look at the analytics to see what photos are getting the most attention, what tweets get the most attention. One thing I know absolutely, the Facebook posts that get the most attention at the rental school are about students. They don't want to hear about professors. And they don't want to hear about staff. They want to hear about students. And the things that really get a lot of attention in the rental school, I know, is if it's about a student doing well in their job. That's the one that gets the most attention. So we spend a lot of time hunting down alumni, hunting down students who are doing great things to make sure that that works. The About page, I cannot begin to tell you the importance of thoroughly filling out your biography on Facebook. You absolutely must tell everybody where you went to college, where you went to high school, where you've lived. It allows you to tell you your favorite quotes, your favorite books, and here's why. Facebook will do all the work that you need to find the people that you need to be connected to. Okay, so if you post places that you've worked, then all of a sudden you have people who know you, and if it's time to start getting campaign donations, you've got them built into your system, and it makes it that much easier. Your friends, of course, there's multiple levels of your friends. Ideally, you will see that you have all your friends, you have recently added friends, you have new posts from friends. If you want to look up birthdays, I have a tool that I send private happy birthdays. I never post on someone's wall for their birthday. It means so much more to get a private message. And I always try to include something personal. You know, like, gosh, I can't believe you're 45. It seems like only yesterday we were living in the dorm room at Lenormand College. Gosh, look at us, we're getting old. You know, I try to say something very personal so they remember it. Your photos are also very, very important. That headshot up there, that picture, I cannot tell you how important that picture is. Your profile pic, which is right under Pray for Orlando in my case, you need to have a winning headshot in that place. Because you're going to be micro-sized when people are searching for you, and they need to be able to recognize you in 3 to 4 seconds. Very, very important. There's also a More button on Facebook that allows you to connect. I travel a lot, so I use Airbnb. I use Airbnb so people will recommend me to people renting Airbnbs so that when they go and look me up, I get the apartment so that other people don't get it. I want to have good standing, things like that. Okay, so Twitter, 140 characters or less, that's all you get. A number sign is called a hashtag. The @ symbol is your handle, if you will. A URL shortener, you've probably seen them. There's a goggle, there's an alley, there's all these different tools. You can take a great big long URL with 9,000 characters and post it in Bitly, for example, and it'll shorten it for you so that you can put it onto Twitter and it'll shorten your 140 characters. And here's the other amazing thing. When people click that link on, you can go to Bitly and look at where they were, how long they were on your page. You can learn all this stuff about who clicked on your link. So those are called URL shorteners. A retweet or an RT, if you like something, you can RT it and you can retweet someone's tweet. People like to be retweeted, so if you're trying to build relationships on Twitter, using the retweet button is a very cool thing. If you ever use the word HT, that means heard through. So you can go HT and then the hashtag of where you learned it. And that's really cool and hip to do, to HT. And the OH is you overheard. It's not true yet, you can't confirm it, but you OH'd it. Those are just some cool words. Please go home and tell everybody that you HT today on Twitter. My father was the sheriff of my county, and we always had a CD in every vehicle we had. And one of the things that I think about every time I'm on Twitter, it's just almost like using a CD radio. My handle when I was a kid, I had a go-kart. So my handle was @GoKartKid. That was my handle on the CD. So I'd go Breaker19, which is a hashtag, because you're breaking into hashtag Breaker19 @GoKartKid. And so you can see my little example that I used, and I actually put, there's a Nevada Highway Patrol Northern at exit 19 on Highway 80. So I tweeted that one day just to be fun, to tell people that there was a cop sitting there, and I tweeted it. You know, I was the passenger.
I don't remember that language.
Yeah, it's just, we'll get to it again.
It is another language.
It is another language, yes. Everyone's tweeting these days. I mean, Tom Hanks stepped in a few years ago. Probably the one person who tweets the most is Ashton Kutcher, who is a big tweeter. He's all over Twitter. There's a lot of people, everybody, including the president, members of Congress, they're all using Twitter as a very valuable tool to talk to their constituents. Just here's some things that if you ever want, there's a search bar at the top of Twitter where you can search out things. So yesterday I tweeted, and I'm going to show it to you in a minute, and I was going to be here with you today. And what I did is I just started typing in Nevada counties, and I found the @ symbol for this organization, which is, and I can't see back there, NVNACO. So if you were sending, is that right?
Yes, we're working on it.
We had to break in.
We're gonna start tweeting soon.
Okay, good. Yeah, I saw you didn't have a lot of tweets, but that's okay. It's a good time to break in, yes. So if you ever wanted to tweet and include this organization, so basically a hashtag, a number, or an @ symbol, is something that aggregates. So think of them as a filing cabinet. The hashtag is a filing cabinet. And in that filing cabinet, you open it up and everything has a file name. So by putting hashtag Reno, you are basically opening up the filing cabinet and sticking that tweet into the Reno folder. Okay? And if you wanted to go at someone, so these are the personnel files, on another drawer down are the @ people, and everybody who works there's files in there. So what would happen if you said @Todd Celts, hashtag Reno, that tweet would go in two places. We would open up the filing cabinet, it would go in the Reno file, then we would open up the other one, it would go in the Todd Celts file. So that's one way to think about why we're using hashtags and why we're using @ symbols, is because we want them to live in files. I've tried a million ways to explain this, and this one seems to work the best. So why do you use Twitter? Well, it allows you to reach your community, it allows you to reach your constituents, it allows you to reach people who have common interests. You go directly to your consumer, you go directly to the people in your counties. It goes very, very fast, and you get to keep up on the news. So I was in LA during the LA shooting. I was at the airport, and I knew something was going on. There was no way I could get the information from the news. I had to go to Twitter, because that's where, and then I wrote a 45-page research paper on my experience. And I actually aggregated every single tweet that went on for 2 hours and how they built, and I put them in little folders and wrote a research paper on it because I was there. How exciting. But that's the thing that Twitter does for me more than anything else, is allows me to keep up on what's really going on. So this is what Twitter looks like. It also has some navigation. You have a home button. The home button is giving you information on the people you're following and the people who are following you. You also have what we call a moments button. This was from yesterday afternoon when I took a screenshot. These are the big trending issues that are going across Twitter at that moment. Your notifications, if someone includes you in their tweet, this is where you can find all the information about your thing. So there's also something called direct messages. It's like a private message. On Twitter, you can send private messages to your folks. So this was the tweet that I sent yesterday, speaking to @NVNACO tomorrow on best practices on hashtag Facebook and hashtag Twitter. So we have a reply button, so if you get a tweet, you can reply to that tweet directly. You can also retweet it. I was telling you, retweets are very cool. People like to be retweeted. They also like to be shared on Facebook, but retweets tend to work the best. And you can like things. It used to be called favor, but now they've changed it to the word like, so you can like a tweet. And the more likes you get, the bigger the tweet gets on Twitter. So if you get 150 likes, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So when people are looking, your tweet becomes bigger and people can see it. There's a little button here that allows you to do some other things. You can mute your tweets, you can block people, you can report really mean tweets, which I've done. You can share a tweet privately. So just some best practices and we'll wrap up. Keep posts short. Don't just talk about yourself, talk about things that matter. Okay? So yes, it's great that you're running for re-election, but talk about the issues. I'm just going to tell you right now, I mean, I'm in the course of doing a big research project, and I'm monitoring all the Clinton and Trump tweets. And I'm in this, and I've got this machine that's just every day pumping them down for me and throwing them into these categories. Neither candidate are using Twitter effectively. I'm sorry to tell you. They're just doing a lot of rhetoric, and eventually, this will end because things will change. And they're going to be pressed to get information out that people care about. People use Twitter during the day. They use Facebook at night. So just keep that in mind. Twitter is also best used Monday through Friday. People don't tweet a lot on the weekends. Don't use too many hashtags trying to be cool. 1 or 2 is enough. And that's the same with... And if you find something that's trending, like the Orlando shooting, and you try to connect your county to the Orlando shooting, that is called shoehorning. That is using other people's virility or viral activity on your own benefit, and people think you're kind of a Twitter snob when you do that, and it's not good. People love pictures, 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 pictures. They want photos, they want photos, they want photos. In fact, I read an article yesterday that said by 2020, 95% of all news will be videos. So all journalism will be videos by 2020. They won't read anything, it'll just be videos. Links, very, very important, embed them. Listen to what people are saying. It's just like, you guys know how to do this. You walk out of church on Sunday and your constituents accost you in the parking lot. You know how to listen. You nod gently. Wow, that's... Same on Twitter. You got to do the same thing. You've got to listen to those constituents. You've got to listen to what they're saying, and you have to respond effectively. So I'm going to share this all with you. I've got all these great points, so you got to take this home with you and study it. I've gone over time, and I really apologize for that. Thank you so much. I am at Todd Celts, if you want to tweet me. I would love that. I am also, if you would prefer email, I'm at infelts@unr.edu. My first name is Michael Todd. Pardon me? Oh, yeah. Where did it go? Thank you. And again, I apologize for going over 8-9 minutes. My deepest apologies. So if you have any questions, we'll save them for the panel later. Thank you so much.
Before I introduce our next guest, folks, there are chairs up here around these tables so you can sit here and do notes. It's going to be really difficult to write notes on your lap. So yeah, come on up and join us. Thank you very much, Todd. Our next presenter is Melissa Blosser, Public Information Officer and Community Relations Manager for Douglas County. Her background includes experience as a former journalist and freelance writer, formal FEMA training in emergency management, and she is currently pursuing her master's in mass communications. So thank God we got her before she got that master's. Melissa has been with Douglas County for 3 years and manages their social media and their public information and communications department. Melissa is going to talk about how she uses Douglas County's Facebook to communicate important information to residents. If anyone has had an opportunity to go to Douglas County's Facebook page, they do an excellent job. Please do check it out. In the meantime, Melissa, welcome and thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm under here. I was trying to get it loaded for the sake of time, so. Do you know how to make this go back on the screen? Oh, sure.
There it goes.
Okay, thank you. I was asked just to basically go over what we do as Douglas County in our Facebook. We started our page in 2014, and since then we only use Facebook and Twitter. We do have some YouTube activity going on, but I'm a one-man show. So those people that do have the 3-4 people in their departments that can do Instagram and Pinterest and all those other wonderful platforms, good for you. But I'm only doing these two, and I found it, a lot of us are on limited resources and you can get effective results. So since then we built up to 5,859 likes and 636 followers on Twitter. And how do we do that? We got there basically by, I started out, some of the things that I would do would be to recognize our employees and our volunteers. Employees and volunteers are the bread and butter of your organization. It's kind of an easy, non-controversial way to kind of put some things out there. Talk about what the great things that your volunteers, people in your staff, the people that work with you, what are they doing? And this is just an example right here, Main Street Minden staff and volunteers working away at beautifying the Minden Park with flowers. Thank you for what you do. And then our hashtag right there, and I won't go over those because it sounds like we went over that. And here we go. So here's some people engaging and talking about, way to go. That engagement factor is coming in. Good job. Thank you. And then I also always go in and respond. Yeah, we know they're great. Thanks. So again, highlight employees, volunteers. Talk about people in your organization that are doing great things. Next thing, educate and inform. You can talk about, we do just something really simple, road report, surveying on, ballot committees, managing the county checkbook, which is an interactive thing that we do with our residents involving our strategic goals. So as we talked about before, putting these really lovely visuals out there. I find, just to mimic what he said was, if you put visuals out there, you're gonna get way more comments on pictures and video than you were if you're just gonna put a post with a bunch of text on there. Tips, so you wanna start a conversation with a photo or image that is visually appealing. Less text, add a link driving traffic to your website where more information can be found, and start a conversation with people and engage them. So that information can still be living there on your website, but you don't need to post it all over your social media. You can just basically put in a picture kind of to poke the bear a little bit, start the conversation, and then the more information can be living elsewhere, and they can go, oh, click on that, it drives a link right to where they need to find the rest of the information. Another thing that's worked for us is Scenic Photos. A lot of people use Instagram for this. We unfortunately, like I said, just don't. I've picked these two platforms just for the sake of time, but they are great. Talk about the community that you live in. Everybody loves to talk about the community they live in, right? We all think it's a great place. It's beautiful. Luckily, Douglas County makes it easy for me. That has definitely made my job fabulous. So just pictures of town, pictures of people, scenic photos. And then I take it a step further and I go out and I find pictures that people have taken. And I ask them if I can use them. So like right here on Twitter, talk to this gentleman, hey, I saw you took this picture. Can we use it on our social media? Sure, great, thanks, great trails. So we're starting to have a conversation, a little bit of dialogue, talking about the great place and the community that we live in. It's not necessarily government, but you're still having that conversation with that person. You're still humanizing government with your residents and the people that live there. And they like that, people like that. Events and people, so talking about farmers market, we have concerts in the park. This concerts in the park for us has been wildly successful. And even this post, I think, even when we posted the post here, just this picture alone and talking about the scheduled events, everybody started talking about, yeah, I can't wait to get there. And then as people started talking about, or what time are you going? And they were having this conversation. Then we chimed in and said, oh yeah, we're just so happy that all these people come down. It's such a safe, great family event. And special thanks to our parks crew for in the town of Minden who's down there setting up. Did you know that involves local government? Because sometimes people don't even know some of the events that they're going to, and they're hanging out and having a good time. Hey, guess what? Local government was in the background. So I just kind of like chime in with that without being too, governmental. And then here here's our dog. We have a program at the library with young kids can read to dogs. And this is actually, we talked about blogs here. I go out to the blogs and actually I seek out unsolicited people that are talking about great people in our community, our staff doing things. So this is completely unsolicited. So they're on the blog, I go in, they post it, the firefighters came to their preschool, this was an amazing thing. So I'll go out and I'll share it. Or I'll go to the blog, I go to the other sites. I don't just rely on me to post and them to come to me. I actually go to the blogs and I go to find the people where they are and what they're talking about. And I use Sprout a lot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sprout, but Sprout really helps me utilize that by searching. Here, I just came in contact with the city of Issaquah, and they actually did this video, and I thought it was great. It's not us, but it's a fabulous way to use humor, and so I thought I would just share it with you guys really quick. Oh, there's no sound.
Yeah, unfortunately there's not.
It's the Brady Bunch.
Does your computer go up anymore?
Cute.
That is cute.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, they're singing the Brady Bunch song while they're doing this. I don't know how to.
Oh, there you go on the far right.
Yeah, there we go. That's gonna.
Same problems I have.
Yeah, unfortunately there's.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so anyway, they kind of go. I was just gonna let it play without sound, but they kind of did this huge Brady Bunch thing, and they were recruiting for a seat on their council. You can go on YouTube and watch it. And it's the City of Issaquah on their YouTube channel. It's really cute, and it went viral, and it's a way to humanize government again. And I thought they did an excellent job. I think they won some awards for that, and just.
I just want to know if you can
Kind of
spell Issaquah.
No, I can't. But I have a card that's next to my desk. They have a fabulous social media. They also have a communications director and 3 people in their department, and they are doing a fantastic job. Here's another thing that we did. We have Dudley, the Douglas County dinosaur. It's kind of funny, and I think sometimes people wonder what I'm doing because I'm walking around with a stuffed dinosaur. People think I'm talking to it, but he actually visits various different places within the community, and we take pictures of him and say, can you guess where Dudley is? And it's, he visits services, he visits departments, he visits government buildings. This is the last day of school, and I just posted, school is out for summer. Can you guess where he is? What school? And then all these people are interacting with us and guessing at what school he was at and what he was doing. And then he's at the farmers market right here. He went and voted. I had an I voted sticker. So he goes to various different places, and it's just really cool because people get involved and they start, oh yeah, and he has a little Douglas County bandana you can see there. It's kind of fun. And here, this is just another way of talking about humanizing government. It was National Donut Day. Our DA brought in donuts for all of us at our staff meeting, and so I posted this thing that just said, hey, it's National Donut Day. Where do you guys get your donuts? this. And then everybody started, the food closet chimed in and said, we get them from Riley's and Gardnerville. And you don't see my response there, but it was like, oh, that's great that, nonprofit, government, and, our businesses working together. Happy National Donut Day, Just always bring it back in, but it can be that simple. It's really just that, you're humanizing government. Of course, we post a lot of things that are about our, our budgets and, our services and stuff like that. But don't be afraid to just talk to people about regular things because they want to know that you're approachable. They want to know that we are people. There are people sitting on the other. We're not scary. We're not here just raising all your taxes. And here's another thing. We had these flamingos that were coming up, sprouting up all over downtown. And they were in bunches all over, and our code enforcement guys started to wonder, why are all these flamingos, popping up everywhere? This is kind of weird. Well, it's actually, so I just took a picture and asked people, what's going on? Is there a hidden meaning? Like we see these flamingos popping up all over downtown. So, of course, I just rely on the residents to let me know where they're at. So they actually told us that it's when you get flocked, and it was for Relay for Life, and it was a fundraiser, and it's actually to get people to donate money. So they go around and they move these plastic flamingos, and they put them all over their yard, outside businesses, and then they leave a little phone number on their door to kind of tell them where to go to donate money for whatever charity that is.
And that's how you get the flamingos removed.
Right, yeah, so then they come and pick them up.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool. I kind of had a feeling it was something like that, but it was a cool, fun, creative post. And then all these people started telling me and private messaging me, and it was cool. And hey, did you know? And I said, oh, that's a great idea. So anyway, and then another way of alert the public, and this is kind of more of a traditional way that we think about using social media in government. We use it for alerts. We've used it in Douglas County a lot and in Nevada, flash flood watches. Missing people. Missing people are huge, and I do the long text with that because it's the full description of the person, and if they are, sitting there looking at it, and they can look at, exactly if they happen to come into encounter with that person, they know what they look like, and the full description. And people actually love these. They share them like crazy because you know why? People want to be a part of it. They're law enforcement, right? Like it's their chance to be like that cop there, so they're going to share it and be like, help us catch this guy, And then I'll get some of the comments of, really, he stole a TV, so you you get some of that, but people really like to be a part of that. And here, this kind of shows you during our, Facebook, how high we do, I can agree with that 1 or 2 posts a day for us, but when we go into emergency management mode, we are posting constantly and the engagement goes up really high because people it becomes a full drive Twitter and Facebook public safety powerhouse, basically. Where do you get sandbags? Where's the water coming in? Road closures? All of that. And we use our website as well to kind of those 3 different places to track and monitor the incident, whether it's a fire, a flood, or any type of disaster. I can stand here and tell you that everything is great and we're just doing a fabulous job and everything's going smoothly, but that's not true. Sometimes we put things out there and it doesn't always go well, right? And that tends to be the holdup sometimes because they're like, people are always saying, well, what if, and it's going to draw this attention to all these negative things we have going on. That's already such a hot topic. I don't want to poke the bear anymore and get all these, negative comments on my page and all this stuff, and I don't want to make it worse. But I can tell you that if it's on your page, people are already talking about it. They're already talking about the grocery store. They're already talking about it in the beauty shops. This is an opportunity for you to be able to address it and have that conversation or direct them to a place where the appropriate or correct information might be. An example of that was the road report that I just showed you. Roads are a hot topic, as Steve can probably tell you, in Douglas County and anywhere infrastructure. So, we put this road report up thinking it's going to help people, tell them where the road closures are and tell them, where the delays are and all that. This is great, right? No, people start complaining about the roads and how terrible they are, and we just can't believe that we have all this, what are you doing with public money, and just complaining. So it I kind of read through their comments, and it gave me an opportunity to kind of state to them, I realized that people weren't really understanding how we prioritize roads, like what roads come over what other roads. And as a PIO, I didn't really understand either. I'm like, I don't know how they prioritize, how the road department goes out and they decide. So I asked him, and when we released a statement, we have had a lot of questions on how we prioritize road projects and maintenance, and I basically got this information from my road crew and we put it out there. A lot of people didn't know that 395 is managed by NDOT. That's not us. So they're complaining about NDOT, and not that we want to turn it to another agency, but we're also just trying to inform people that if you're going to you need to go talk to NDOT about that road, and this road, yes, is us. So it also provides an opportunity for you to have a conversation. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, because I've had that a lot in the last 3 years. Oh no, we don't want to poke the bear anymore. Oh, we don't want to say that and make it worse. You're not going to make it worse. They're already talking about it. It's actually an opportunity. I don't banter with people on our pages, and I strongly urge that you do not do that. Sometimes I will take it into a private message if they have a question or they want to talk about it. And if they do start getting nasty, I just don't respond to some things. I mean, I'll take usually one comment to try to correct, and after that, I don't banter. So best practices, definitely develop a policy. I'm just assuming you guys have pages set up. I didn't know, where you're at. Train staff and admins. Have a backup admin, because God forbid, you have one admin, right? Guess what happens when that one admin leaves? And then you don't have the passwords, and then you don't know how to get into your account, and then it's just living out there. You don't have to shut it down. Or God forbid, what if something happens to you? Who's gonna run that page? Or maybe you wanna go on a vacation. You want somebody else to monitor that page for you. Archive your social media. It is considered public record. I'm not gonna go into that too much, but we now use a program called Archive Social Media, which archives everything for us because it is considered public record. Don't banter with people, already went over that, and engage with people and respond within at least 24 hours. And that's gonna boost your engagement too. If you just have all these comments sitting out there and you're not responding to people, well, guess what? You're just blasting out information. You're not, and the point is to engage. So if you're just posting and then there's no engagement, there's no two-way conversation going on, well then you're just kind of saying, oh yeah, we have the social media page and we post twice a day. And you're not gonna really get a whole lot of results from that. So I think we're gonna hold questions till the end, so I will end. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I think you talked faster than I did.
I was trying, I know, for the sake of time.
Our final presenter today is Sarah Bradley, and she is from the Nevada Attorney General's Office. Sarah is a Deputy Attorney General and practices primarily in the area of administrative law. She has been with the Attorney General's Office for 9 years. Sarah will talk to us about what we as local governments and public officials need to be aware of from a legal perspective as you are using social media. This is what I was waiting for. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Oh, welcome. Well, part of what I wanted to talk about, I think, was just touched on, which is awesome, that your social media accounts, if they're your official accounts for your local government agency, are public records. So you'll need to make sure you have a record of those and they are available. Another thing to think about too, because we've had this issue come up, you may want to consider not allowing two-way communication. I mean, I guess it depends, but there's always that risk that somebody sort of tries to take over your page and post all kinds of things you don't want. And if you delete those, they could say that you're deleting a public record because you've put it out there, they've responded, and maybe they have their political issue that they're very excited about, and they rant about that a bit. So be careful of that. So I know some agencies, for that reason, have said, we're going to use a Facebook page, let's say, and we're going to have it be one-way communication, kind of like a newsletter, as opposed to an interactive forum. Not to say you can't do that, it's just something to be mindful of. I would encourage you to have a policy. So when I think about policies for social media, there's several areas you want to have a policy, and one is the use of your social media, like we're talking about. It's a public record, maybe abusive or other kinds of remarks will be deleted, things like that. So at least if you have a policy about it, I think you're more protected, but you still want to be very careful about that. Also, you want to think about open meeting law as well. So we don't want our county commissioners or other, city council members, those people, there can still be a quorum through social media. So we got to keep that in mind as well. So we don't want people live posting on, Facebook while we're in a meeting, or even posting outside of meetings. It's not just face-to-face communication or email or phone calls. It can also be Facebook posts and other things that can constitute a quorum. So we want to be careful about that as well, because the Nevada Supreme Court has recognized a walking or a serial quorum, and that can occur in any format. So we could have somebody talking face-to-face, someone else emails, someone else Facebook posts. Suddenly we have a quorum talking about our public body business, and that would be a problem. So you want to make sure you have a policy about that as well, and that all of your public body members are aware of that, and they have some training on that. I would also encourage them to be aware, like on their personal pages too, be very careful what you say. What I mean by that is, you don't want to, after, let's say, a very long city council meeting, say, gosh, you know, can't believe the people, or whatever on item 12, or, you know, those kinds of things. Just be very careful about what you're saying and what perception you're putting out there, because that can actually get you into some trouble. Especially if you're deciding things like making decisions on zoning, or making decisions and you're sort of after the fact commenting on it on social media. Not a good idea. So you want to have a policy on how you're going to use it as the agency. You want to have a policy for your decision makers, how they're going to use it. You want to make sure they're aware that open meeting law violations could occur if they're not careful in their use of social media. And then I think you also want to think about ethics, both for them and for employees. We want to think about, you should have a policy on how your employees should be using social media as well. In their personal accounts, you know, maybe they shouldn't mention things about state business or government business. What is confidential? And part of the reason I guess I worry about this is there's cases and stories across the country of people doing and saying horrible things on social media that I think lots of us would think, well, wouldn't they know better, you know? And apparently not everyone does. I guess that's the bottom line. And I think, I mean, I try to think about it. I think, well, maybe some people are just so much younger and they've just grown up with this, so they don't think about it the same way I do, where I at least kind of realize I don't want to necessarily, you know, blast these things. So for lawyers, for example, we have, of course, the confidentiality rules, the Nevada rules of professional conduct that talk about even, I mean, in theory, if I check in at the courthouse, I could be really, you know, releasing confidential information, really, because the fact that I'm there on my client's case is sort of my client's business, not really the world's. And so there is a view that says, no, you shouldn't even be, you know, saying where you are as an attorney if you're there on client business, because that could be. And then there's also, again, the issue of employees maybe sharing confidential information or ranting about things, or, you know, posting pictures. There's been a lot of that too, posting pictures. Like, for example, there was one picture where I think it was an emergency room, and some nurses posted this very messy, chaotic emergency room after a big tragedy. And they were in trouble later for that because it was considered, you know, unprofessional conduct and a variety of things. So just be careful about that. It's so easy, I think, to snap a picture and upload it because you think it's funny or you think this or that. So we're encouraging everybody to come up with a policy on what you want your employees and your staff to know about both maybe the state and the official pages, but also their own pages. What should they not be releasing? What should they know they really can't withhold? Confidentiality applies not just to telling somebody over dinner, but it's also what we post on social media can be a problem. Other things to keep in mind, like law enforcement and lawyers are generally considered ethically forbidden from friend requesting suspects on social media. You know, if we look at the page and we're not friending, but you can't friend someone for the purpose of trying to uncover information. So there's those sorts of things as well. There also can be ex parte communication. So if something's coming before the city council members should be careful that, you know, people aren't trying to post on their page or send them private messages about their issue. Again, we want to try to be careful about that, just like we would any other forum. And I don't know, it just occurred to me, because there's also a way, of course, to send messages on Facebook, and you don't always see them. Those are, you know, from people that aren't your friends. So you might want to occasionally go through that and delete those, because there could be situations where people are trying to contact you and they shouldn't be, and they're just sort of sitting there and you don't know that. And you probably don't want to really read those messages, but you might want to occasionally keep an eye on that just to make sure there's not hidden messages on Facebook for you. I think that's basically it. I mean, I think the big thing is to spell out policies and really think of all the implications that can come, because social media is wonderful and it can be wonderful, but there also can be some pitfalls, and I don't know that we always think about that as we try to utilize these things. And it's my thought that many agencies are behind in developing some of those policies and coming up with how we want to handle that. So anyway, I think that's that, and I'll
Thank you.
save the rest for
Thank you
questions.
very much, Sarah. And thanks to everybody. Those were great presentations. We now have a little bit of time for questions of our presenters. And if you are in a remote location and have a question, please jump in also. But remember to keep your phones or video systems on mute unless you have a question or comment. I'll start out and then I'll go to you. Sarah, is there a place that we could find a good example of policy?
You know, we're working on that in our office. And so I like to